first of all, Rebecca, would you be able to just tell us just sort of what your role is and what you do for a job, I suppose?
Yeah, I work as a rehabilitation officer for people with vision impairment, and I work for a local authority in southwest England.
Okay, brilliant, excellent. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is sort of what people are using for magnification and how they're using the products. And I know a question that seems to come up quite a bit when we talk to people that are maybe newly registered and their eyesight might be deteriorating, sort of what the differences are, say, between an optical, like a glass magnifying glass, versus an electronic magnifier. And I just wondered, whether you might be able to expand on that.
Well, the people that I work with are able to apply for local authority funding for a certain amount of equipment. So that's the first question about monies kind of taken. And so the advantages for most people that I have met and worked alongside are that the electronic magnifier has a much bigger screen. So I don't know whether people realise this, but the stronger the glass magnifier, the smaller the lens. And that's all about optics and physics and how thick the glass needs to be. Whereas with an electronic magnifier, you have a standard screen size, which remains active and visible, whether you're using a ×3 magnification power or a ×10. Mm-hmm. So that's one great advantage of an electronic magnifier. There are 2 or 3 others that are also worth mentioning at this stage. The first one is that you can change the colour of the reproduction. So if you're reading something that is very colourful, you can swap it to black and white if that suits your vision, your functioning vision better. Or you can put a blue background with yellow text. There are lots of variations. So that means that if you find a lot of whiteness on a page or on a magnifier creates discomfort and glare, which reduces your functional vision, in an electronic magnifier, you can just scroll through the different colour options and find one which suits you best.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The third really important functioning advantage of an electronic magnifier is that you can vary the magnification. So not everything that people are trying to read is produced with, 0.14 Arial font. So you go from really tiny print on one item to quite large print on something else. And with an electronic magnifier, you're able to vary the strength of magnification. And for me as a professional, that also means that if I'm issuing somebody equipment, it's got a possible longevity for it, because if the person's functional vision changes in 6 months' time, rather than contacting the eye clinic and saying, oh, my magnifiers aren't working so well for me, I need a new one, they can just alter the magnification to suit themselves. And with some people whose eyesight can fluctuate quite a lot or noticeably even through a single day. So if someone's got a diabetic related eye condition, or they've got a systemic condition, which means they suffer and experience a lot of fatigue, functional eyesight can change quite dramatically. And so with an electronic magnifier, you can vary the level of magnification to accommodate that change in functionality. So that's another advantage of them.
Okay. And is there sort of a point, say, if somebody's eyesight is deteriorating in a way where they have to increase the magnification, obviously, of the optical magnifier, is there kind of like a diopter or a magnification that somebody would get to where you would say it's probably beneficial at this point to start looking at things like assistive technology, so electronic magnifiers and screen magnifiers and so on? Is there a point, or do you think it can sort of benefit people that are already just using optical magnifiers and maybe they've kind of got used to that, and they may have sort of days when it would be nice to be able to magnify more, but they kind of get by? Or is there like a particular kind of stage in somebody's eyesight where you would recommend maybe taking a look at things like mags?
I think for me as a professional, in those conversations, assessment conversations I have with people, I tend to ask people, what are the most challenging points of your reading? What are the things that you're trying to read that you're experiencing difficulty with doing so? Are you experiencing any symptoms? So are you getting headaches or eye strain, or are you just, I don't do any reading anymore because I just can't?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yep.
about using how a person responds to the idea of an electronic magnifier. If you have somebody who says, I don't do gadgets, then it's not worth exploring with them. But there are a lot of people who, especially the older generation, who quite like the other advantage of an electronic magnifier is that it sits on the page, so you don't have to
Yes.
hold it. So
Yep.
there are a significant number of older people who have, a common eye condition called macular degeneration, who can't hold a magnifier steady because they've got arthritic shoulders, or they've got, arthritis in their hands. So the fact that this just sits on the table straight on the page is also useful, because you don't have to try and hold it and the thing you're trying to read, right up close to your face.
Yeah.
But in terms of actual, looking at someone's certificate of vision impairment and trying to work out their visual acuity or loss of visual field and whether that person is suitable for a magnifier or not, I don't tend to work like that. And I don't think most of my rehabilitation officer colleagues do either. It's much more about what's the person telling me is their main challenge, their main goal, what's going to make the most difference in this person's life, and what are the elements of that person's life that, as a taxpayer funded service, what am I meeting? So am I supporting a person to read someone else's prescriptions and medicine bottles because they're a carer? Am I supporting somebody in parenting because schools just send out printed letters or school reports sometimes in print, and they expect people to be able to read them? Is somebody doing cooking, or is somebody actually teaching their children to read? And would this magnifier mean that can all of those things can happen for that person without the need for sighted assistance? So for me, it's very much about looking at the person holistically, considering what they're trying to achieve as an adult. Is this going to be something that is going to improve somebody's functional vision? And in doing so, is it going to enable that person and support that person with, achieving things in a different way than picking up the phone and saying, I can't read this, I need my, I need my friend or my family member to come and assist me. So it's just about changing that pattern of dependency, really, that pattern of interaction with their family as well and friends. So
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Because I know it's the sort of one of the biggest things with assistive technology now is it can not necessarily give people full independence back, but obviously it's going in that direction. So like you've just said there, if people are relying on others to maybe read things for them with the right kind of technology, I guess then they're getting that independence back. And obviously that has sort of knock-on effects for the mental well-being and just feeling much better about life, because obviously we understand that low vision is way more impactful than just simply not being able to see. It has a more consequence. And you mentioned a few things there, and I'd like to ask you, what would you say are the top, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 things or whatever that somebody would want to achieve with a magnifier? Because that's the thing, for most of us, we'll get letters through the post, we'll read, we'll maybe, I don't know, need to write something down and so on. And all of that, obviously, with sight is taken for granted. And I'm just kind of curious when, sort of push comes to shove, where most people's kind of priorities lie with regards to being able to see to do certain things. Have you found that there's a common sort of thing that most people or majority of people might want to do, or is it's pretty much kind of the same? Or does it vary too much, kind of thing?
I think for me, functional tasks around the home. So reading cooking instructions on ready meals is a massive one. So that would be definitely one of my top 3. Secondly, and I always find this one very interesting, it's people who are no longer able to travel and move around, really value the mental stimulation and agility of doing things like crosswords, word search puzzles. So there's a functional aspect, but there's also a hobby aspect of vision and improving functional vision. And then thirdly, there's always the one about medical letters, so letters from hospital, which, as we all are aware, printed on that kind of off-white paper. They haven't seemed to have worked out that they can actually send the whole letter in bold print. It would be much more preferable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that people with eyesight conditions might also attend other clinics.
Yes.
Yes, one of my bugbears. So I think for me it's kind of cooking, hobbies, and then sort of official letters, official communication that can't arrive via any other method. So yeah, letters from the hospital, letters from the council, any really important communication that it would be good to know what it is, even if someone's functional vision isn't enabling them to read the whole letter and understand it. Just being able to identify the letter, know what it is, and say to somebody, whilst I could read it, it's the understanding and the retention of the information that I still need help with, but it's actually being able to manage that and know what's arriving through your front door. So there's a whole range of functioning vision for people, which makes a magnifier, you know, can make using a magnifier just the best thing since sliced bread, or it can be the difference between you just having a pile of post on your side and saying, that's not my job, I don't deal with that at all, to them being able to sort it out and say, those are the important bits, that's the junk mail.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's still changing someone's involvement with the household.
Yeah, because I think that's it. A lot of sort of people, when you think about this kind of thing, there's always the argument that, oh, well, that gets sent through an email, or I get that as a text message. And obviously, with the majority of the sort of the low vision community being elderly, although there's definitely a massive growth in sort of using iPads and phones and so on, there's still quite a bit that comes through the post. But not only that, you mentioned a couple of things there, like cooking and obviously medicine. And obviously that can't be done electronically. It literally just has to be read. And if the medicine bottle's only that big, they can only make the print sort of so big. But it's something that we've come across where people are getting sent things by organisations or people, sort of government, that are maybe aware of the fact that the person has low vision and just really not really accounting for that when they're sending them correspondence. So yeah, okay.
So
and yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, the one about medications is interesting because, of course, prescriptions are still printed using dot matrix printers.
Wow, okay, yeah.
So the print quality on there is really poor.
Yeah.
So the other advantage of an electronic magnifier is that you can fiddle about with the colours. It's not just a magnification of what is on the page, which is what an optical magnifier will give you. What a glass magnifier does is it simply makes whatever is on the page bigger.
Yeah.
You know, with an electronic magnifier, you can also make even the black and white. There is an option for making it black and white, and that actually makes any text, you know, clearer and sharper.
Yeah.
Regardless of what else is going on the page. So you do have that additional sort of option.
Yeah, okay. And I guess also sort of reading's one aspect, but I suppose one of the sort of downsides, if you like, with things like traditional glass magnifiers is when it comes to things like writing and so on. If somebody wanted to actually do some writing, as it were, is that something that you find that people are looking to do, even though their eyesight may not allow it? At least they've got the option there.
Nowadays, handwriting has really slipped off the agenda for most people, and because of direct debits and other methods of payment, the kind of era of people writing lots of checks is probably over.
Yes. Yep.
So handwriting is not as much of a priority anymore, or hasn't been for the people that I've met for about 5 years. But for some people, it remains really important. You know, that hand written birthday card or Christmas card, being able to write envelopes for greeting cards, being able to write, a shopping list for someone else to take to the shop for them. That kind of thing for handwriting is still important. And of course, there's all the sort of arts and crafts element of holding a crayon or a pastel or a paintbrush and doing art. So, that the whole kind of act of writing, if you like, can be both functional and really creative for a lot of people.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. So I may as well ask as a sort of like a closing thing. I'm curious. You mentioned things like hobbies and so on. What's kind of the strangest thing that anybody's ever wanted to magnify without without being rude? I'm just kind of I'm putting you on the spot now.
Well, I've met quite a few retired engineers.
Uh-huh.
So the area of southwest England where I work seems to be a magnet for retired engineers.
Right.
And
yes,
so these are people whose life can be measured in things I have mended and made work better than the manufacturers.
Right,
and so I think one of the strangest things I ever had asked was, can I use this magnifier in my garage, because I like to mess about with electronical, kind of bits and pieces. And I think that's the strangest one. And I've also encountered one individual who did manage to mend his electronic doorbell.
Wow.
With using an electric magnifier, held in place by his capable and steady-handed wife. But he was so chuffed with being able to do that, and that would not have been possible with the glare from an optical magnifier. So,
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's the thing. I think we're sort of a generation where maybe it's kind of a throwaway society or whatever. But that's the thing. If you've got that engineering background, there's always going to be that thought that you'd like to repair something or fix it, like say make it better. So yeah, no, that's interesting. Excellent, good stuff. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully once this is all over, we can meet face to face. And I look forward to that. Come down to the southwest.
Yeah. Okay. All the best, Mark.
Excellent. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.